after 10 hours of talks, European leaders unveil a plan which they hope will stabilise the Eurozone. So, just what has been agreed? Well, private banks holding Greek debt are to accept a loss of 50%, reducing the country's overall debt by about $140 billion. Now, leaders also agreed a mechanism for the Eurozone's main bailout fund to boost its firepower to €1 trillion. That's $1.4 trillion. The framework for the increased fund should be in place in November. Additionally, banks will be forced to raise more capital to shield them against losses resulting from any government defaults.
In an agreement reached after more than 8 hours of heated negotiations, the private sector said it would voluntarily accept a nominal 50% cut in its investment to reduce Greek debt burden by €100 billion, cutting its debt to 120% of GDP by 2020 from 160% now. At the same time, the Eurozone will offer credit enhancement, or sweeteners as they call it, to the private sector, totaling some €30 billion. Well, the aim is to complete negotiations on the package by the end of the year so that Greece has a full second financial aid program in place before 2012.
Compared to 8 or 10 years ago, the pressure which leaders put on each other has become much more effective, as the events of the last days show. Today, no government can afford to underestimate the possible impact of, for instance, public debts or housing bubbles in another Eurozone country on its own economy. They would be punished by the voters and by the markets. Peer pressure has become more effective because the money of taxpayers is at stake.
Speaking to the media after the deal was announced, French President Nicolas Sarkozy said European leaders have a voluntary agreement with the private sector, the parameters of which have been discussed. The private sector has written off half of the debt that it holds. And Asian stocks rose with investors feeling that the decisions are bold enough to wade into risky assets after European leaders reached that agreement on a plan to reduce Greece's massive debts.